Hello, everyone, and thank you to everyone for tuning in to Know Your Rights Workshop. I'm glad to be joined by Congresswoman Sara Jacobs and our special guests, Emily and Marissa from the Jewish Family Services of San Diego. We'll discuss the constitutional rights everyone has when they interact with ICE and law enforcement, regardless of your immigration status. It is more important than ever that everyone knows and understands these rights. The Trump administration has unleashed an anti-immigrant agenda in our country that is really unprecedented. In the face of these threats, we want to ensure that everyone in our community fully understands their constitutional rights and what the law actually says. I'm very happy to be joined by Congresswoman Sara Jacobs. Sara, when she joined the Congress, immediately became a leader. And everyone saw the leadership qualities she had. She's been placed in very important positions. She's had a lot of experience throughout the world working for the United States government on behalf of all of our people. And that's why we're very happy that she's joined tonight and very proud to introduce a real leader for the United States, Congresswoman Sara Jacobs.
Well, thank you so much, Juan. And thank you to Marissa and Emily for being here. Juan and I just really wanted to put this on because I know that there is a lot of anxiety and fear, obviously, with all the news that we've heard of, people being taken away, being detained. I myself have done a lot of oversight on this. I went to visit Guantanamo Bay to see what was happening there, and have been asking a lot of questions about the situation, the raid that we saw in El Cajon, in my district just this past week. And so we wanted to make sure that we're getting the information out because regardless of your immigration status, you have certain rights, you have constitutional protections. And we want you to know what those are so that you are keeping yourselves and your families and your loved ones safe, and know that you can always reach out to our office if we can be of assistance.
Thank you very much, Sara. Appreciate it. And again, your leadership, as you can see, Sara is someone that's very well prepared and does quite a bit of work in this area and really has been heroic in her efforts. So with that, I'd like to introduce Emily and Marissa from the Jewish Family Service for Know Your Rights presentation. Emily is the Director of Immigration, Policy, and External Affairs at JFS, and Marissa is the lead program coordinator for higher education legal services program at JFS. And as you will see, they're experts in the field and they want to help. So I'll kick it off to them. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate you very much.
Thanks very much, Representative Vargas. You just share my screen here. Okay. Hi, everyone. As Congressman Vargas mentioned, my name is Emily Ortlieb, and I am the Immigration Policy Director at JFS in San Diego. And I'm joined by my colleague Marisa today. And we're going to share some information with you about knowing your rights and how to exercise them. A word before we begin. We're going to give this presentation in English. We will have slides available in Spanish, so you're welcome to take a photo if Spanish is your better language. You can also, and I'll share more information about this in a minute, always reach out to us for a consultation, and we're available to do that in any language. So today we'll give you a little introduction. We'll talk about our constitutional rights and how to practice them, talk a little about family preparedness, and then offer some resources throughout. And it's really important for us to acknowledge that this information that we're giving to you today is not legal advice. Everyone's situation is unique and different, and we really encourage you to speak to a trusted immigration service provider about your particular case. Marisa and I work at Jewish Family Service. We're located in San Diego. We operate throughout San Diego County, as well as in Orange County, Imperial, and soon to be Riverside County as well. Within our Immigration Legal Services Department, we offer a variety of immigration services, affirmative services. So that's representing you before any kind of USCIS procedure. So that's like anything to do with citizenship and immigration services. We also offer higher education legal services via our HELS program, and that program is available to any student, staff, or faculty at any community college, or university within San Diego County. And then we also have our immigration legal rights program, which deals more with removal defense and detained defense. And you'll see you can call the number at the top right of the screen to access our immigration services. And we also have more information available on our website, jfssd.org, if you'd prefer to book a consultation online or read more about the services that we offer. Outside of our immigration service department, we also have a number of other resource and services that we offer within our organization, nutrition and access to food, mental wellness, parenting. You can call the second number on the screen. That's our access line where you can hear some more information about benefits and resources that might be available to you. So first and foremost, every person, as Congresswoman Jacobs mentioned, every person within the United States has certain basic constitutional rights, regardless of their immigration status. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about just general access of your constitutional rights. The common environment that you'll need to access those rights in is interactions within law enforcement. So we have some examples on the screen here of both immigration and law enforcement. We have the U.S. Border Patrol on the top left. Those are the agents in green. And those are the agents that you'll typically see between ports of entry within 100 miles of the border, and then also at checkpoints throughout the county. Moving over to the top right, we have Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. ICE manages all of the immigration detention facilities and also does enforcement operations. We see them typically in the blue uniform, but also increasingly in plain clothes. And then at the bottom of the screen, we have Customs and Border Protection. Those officers also wear blue uniforms, and you'll typically find them at ports of entry and at airports, all of the official ports. And then within San Diego County, we have the county sheriff and then the various city police departments, like the San Diego Police Department. Here is basically like how the agencies are structured, right? So we have the Federal Immigration Authority in the Department of Homeland Security. And within DHS, we have Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Under ICE, we have enforcement and removal operations. That's who you're seeing on the street. And then the Office of the Principal Legal Advisor, which if you have proceedings in immigration court, that's who's appearing on behalf of the government in your case. Then also within DHS, we have the Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, and under CBP, we have the Border Patrol. And then you can see on the right side of the screen, we have all of different examples of the county sheriff, the police department of San Diego, the county sheriff in Imperial County, the police department of El Cajon. And now I will hand it over to my colleague Marisa, who's going to tell you more about your specific rights and how to exercise them.
Thank you, Emily. And just reiterating here too, I'm going to go over two different rights that we have and ways that we might, use them in case that we're ever stopped by law enforcement. And remember that these rights apply to everyone regardless of your status. So whether you have DACA, whether you are undocumented, whether you're a green card holder, maybe you have a visa, maybe you had a visa status, but it expired. We all have the same ability to exercise these rights. And so it's helpful to know that and remember that and share that with our community. So the right to remain silent, this is also known as the Fifth Amendment that is outlined in the US Constitution, which states that we have the right to remain silent. And in this case, when we talk about this right and how to exercise it and why it's important, it's because it's the ability that we to fight against self-incrimination. And so you do not have to give evidence or information or details over about your status or signing a document or telling other personal information. You can refuse to answer questions or give over or present any documents as well or sign anything that's handed over to you by ICE. Next slide, please. So frequently, ICE has no other way to establish that a person is deportable except by, that person's own statements. And so when interacting with law enforcement, there are certain things, certain details that you shouldn't be sharing. For example, details about where you were born. You can refrain from sharing whether or not you are a citizen or disclosing your immigration status, and then also details on how you entered the US. And these apply whether you are at home, in public, at work, and with any kind of law enforcement. And some things that you can say if you're being stopped and being questioned, you can start off with asking clarifying questions. You can say, why am I being stopped? What seems to be the issue? Am I free to leave? And then if you are continued to be asked questions, you can then invoke your right to remain silent and state that I do not wish to speak to you. I'd like to remain silent until I can get a lawyer. All right, the next right that we're going to review is the right against unlawful searches and seizures. This is also known as our Fourth Amendment right that's outlined in the Constitution. And based off of this right, law enforcement agents such as ICE or other federal immigration officers, they cannot search a person's home or belongings without a warrant that is signed by a judge. And so later on, we'll look at what a search warrant is and how that's different from a different type of warrant and which one would warrant the officer to be able to enter your home. So ICE rarely does their work with a judicial search warrant, and you should never give consent for them to come inside your house or search your belongings without the proper warrant. You can ask the agent if you're able to, and the situation permits, to present the documents that they have, if they are presenting documents. If you're able to, and you have a window by your door, you can ask them to put it up against the window before you open the door. You can also ask them to slide it under the door. But the key thing to remember is to never give consent if they don't have this warrant. We all know that every situation plays out differently. And the best thing to remember is to think about the safety of yourself and the safety of your family. And in the moment, if the officer is persisting on entering your home, then Do not try and physically stop the agent. Instead, you can state that you do not consent to this search under your Fourth Amendment right. All right, so this slide presents two different examples of warrants. It might be hard to look closely at the details, but again, there will be different iterations and examples of what these warrants could look like, but there are a few key things that you can remember. As a reminder, a search warrant is a type of warrant that would allow an officer to enter your home, and an arrest warrant or anything besides the search warrant would not allow an agent to enter your house. A search warrant will be signed by a judge and normally will say the name of the court that it's issued by. It will also state that it is a search warrant on that document, and it will list the correct names and addresses and properties that the agents have the ability and permission to search for. On the right side, we have an example of what is an arrest warrant. This example is a document that is issued by the Department of Homeland Security. So remember, that's the umbrella agency that ICE and that ICE, Border Patrol, and CBP work under. And this warrant might give the officer the ability to arrest someone, but it does not allow them to enter your private home or space. All right, and then a few things to remember if you're ever stopped by ICE or CBP. You can go through your rights, your Fourth Amendment right and your Fifth Amendment right in your head. You can first ask, what seems to be the issue? Am I being detained? Am I free to go? And then if you are continued to be searched or asked questions, you can then state, I do not consent to this search under my Fourth Amendment right, and I would like to remain silent and would like to speak to a lawyer. There are a few other key things to remember. If you are stopped, never provide fake documents. For example, if you have a fake Social Security card or a fake green card, don't present that, and don't state you are a U.S. citizen if you are not. Lying could lead to other consequences in the future if you ever try to apply for some sort of immigration benefit. And it's always best to never flee and to go through those steps and state your rights. Okay. And then so all of these apply to different scenarios, right? Whether you're at home, whether you're at work, and also whether you're in your car. And these are a few tips that you can consider if you're in your car and you're stopped by a federal immigration officer. You can turn off the car. If there are any lights that you need to turn on, you can slowly turn those on. And you can crack open the window and place your hands on the steering wheel and then go through those steps. Ask if you're free to go, what seems to be the issue, and then follow as needed. All right. These are a few ideas and considerations that you should review if you're considering what you should be carrying on you when you're going out in public. The first thing, if you have a valid immigration document, make sure to carry that with you. For example, if you are a DACA holder and have an EAD card, otherwise known as a work permit card, you'll want to carry that on you. If you are a current green card holder, a lawful permanent resident, then you want to hold your green card with you at all times. If you do not have any official immigration document or like a valid status, we recommend you carrying a local US issued government ID, for example, a California driver's license or identification document. If you have evidence that you've been here for more than 2 years living in the US, you'll want to carry that around. For example, if you have your California issued ID, And it has your photo and your address on there, and it's been issued for more than 2 years. That could be something that you could use to show that you've been here for more than 2 years. You'll also want to carry around your Know Your Rights Red Card. If you haven't already heard of them, they are a really cool resource that is available to everyone online. You can Google Know Your Rights Card. I'm sure you've seen them being circulated in social media, in your community, in your spaces. They give an overview of your rights and sentence starters to help you remember what to say in case you ever forget your rights or are stopped by law enforcement. And they're available in 14 different languages. So you can print them out, keep them in your purse, in your car, in your house, and share them with your family and friends as well. A few considerations on what you should not carry with you. Like we mentioned earlier, if you have any fake ID documents or fake immigration documents, don't carry that around with you. And then if you have any foreign issued ID documents from your home country, such as a passport, a voting card, or a consular card, you'll also want to keep that at home as well. All right, I think, and I'll pass it back to Emily.
Thank you. Are you able to see my screen still?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I'll tell you a little bit about what you can do if you are detained. So first and foremost, it's a good idea to not sign anything without a lawyer present, and especially not sign anything if you don't understand what you're signing. It's also not the best idea to agree to self-deport if that's not something that you're choosing to do of your own volition. Additionally, if you have fear of returning to your home country, it's important to state that to any immigration officers that you come into contact with. And then, as Marisa mentioned, if you have lived in the US for at least 2 years, make sure that you're stating that to the immigration officers. And this is the reason that we say this is because there's a process within removal proceedings known as expedited removal, and it applies within 100 miles of the border, which we are based on like our location in San Diego County, meaning that if you are encountered by immigration law enforcement and you aren't able to prove right away that you've been here for 2 years, they could potentially try to remove you via expedited removal. And there are some due process concerns with that process. And then, yes, we also recommend that you would then make a call to share the details of your arrests and where you're being detained, and also your or your A number, your alien registration number. You can call and share that with your family is usually important. And then also, we'll be sharing some more information about the San Diego Rapid Response Network and how you could potentially get in touch to get legal assistance. Here we have the San Diego Rapid Response number. So If you have a family member or a friend that is detained, you can call the San Diego Rapid Response Network. The number is on the screen, 619-536-0823. You can reach that number during business hours. And then outside of business hours, there's an opportunity to leave a voicemail, and we'll have someone get back to you typically within 24 hours. That's how it's been working so far. It's important to record any details that you remember about the incident. If you have an immigration attorney or the person who's been detained has an immigration attorney, it's a good idea to contact them immediately. And then you can also look up online where the person is detained. There's an online ICE locator at the website listed on the screen, and you can also call the phone number. In order to get information about where someone is being detained, you do need to know their first and last name, the country of their birth, and typically their date of birth to be able to look them up. And then it's also a good idea to unblock any phone lines to receive collect calls from detention so that those aren't being blocked by your phone. So here we have some information about the San Diego Rapid Response Network. The SCRRN is made up of 4 local organizations. It's us at Jewish Family Service, along with the American Civil Liberties Union for San Diego and Imperial Counties, the San Diego Organizing Project, and then Casa Cornelia Law Center. And the 4 of our organizations work together to respond to enforcement activities, and that includes checkpoints, raids, arrests, and harassment. And that is accessible via our main phone line here. You'll be in touch with someone from San Diego Organizing Project who's coordinating all of the ICE response on behalf of the network. And then we also maintain the phone line for access to legal services as well. So if you know of someone who's been detained and they need legal assistance, you can always call the Rapid Response Network phone line as well. Okay, and then Marisa, I'll hand it back over to you to do the family preparedness.
Great. Thank you, Emily. So we've wrapped up most of our Know Your Rights portion of the session today, and we'd like to talk a little bit about what a family preparedness plan is, why it's important, and why we should start talking about this within our immediate families and our friends. Thank you all for sitting through that. I know that a lot of that information can be heavy, and can be a lot to take in. If you have any other questions about your rights and want to maybe schedule an individualized session, and bring your family members or your friends to a consultation, please make sure to contact us and we'll share our information at the end, so you can have that and speak to one of our team members to review that. All right, so a family prep plan, essentially what it is what is the discussion and plan that you're having with your families, to talk about what to do in the case that someone, you yourself or someone else in your family is detained or arrested. It's always good to have a plan in the case of any type of emergency, not just an immigration related one. But it's important that we reference that when we talk about prepping for these kinds of scenarios in this specific space. And so how can we create a plan? What does it entail? Every plan is going to look different depending on the family and the needs of the family. But generally, it's used to help to make sure that, we make sure that our children are safe and can continue to go to school, access medical treatment as needed. It's intended to create a clear communication between schools, parents, the children, and whoever is appointed as a caregiver, if that's applicable. And it should really make sure that your family's wishes and needs are met in the case that, you're not there anymore. And remember that all parents have rights regardless of their status, and our children have the right to get an education. And so on the screen, we shared a few examples of some documents maybe that you want to keep in mind and in thinking about creating like a physical emergency prep folder. At a lot of our in-person Know Your Rights sessions, we actually give a few worksheets and guides. But if you are interested in getting something that can help you guide you and your family on what kinds of documents you want, you can visit our website. But these are a few examples of copies of physical and digital documents that you should be having in a safe place. And make sure that someone that you know and trust knows where your documents are and can access them in the case that you aren't able to. All right, this document right here is called the California Caregiver Authorization Affidavit form. This is a form that you can use if you think that assigning a caregiver might be something that you want to include in your potential prep plan. What this document does, and this is unique to California, this allows someone else to make decisions for your child's school situation and sometimes medical treatment if you're not there. The caregiver can be anyone above 18, and they can have any type of status, so they don't have to be a U.S. citizen. It can be a relative or a non-relative, but do keep in mind that a relative or like immediate family member, such as like another parent, a sibling, maybe an aunt, grandparent, a cousin, those individuals have the consent and ability to make medical and dental treatment decisions. But anyone else, a non-relative, can enroll a child in school and speak to the school office to make sure that to make those decisions. This is a form that you can fill out before, and then once you sign in date is when you choose to enact the form. And it's recommended to have these conversations with your school and medical offices before to make sure that this is something that they can accept and honor. And you don't have to turn it in right away. Again, you sign in date once you want to initiate the form and the rights that the caregiver will have. All right. This is just a quick little recap of the different steps that you can consider when you're thinking about a family prep plan. And again, this is something that you can make a consultation with HELS or JFS to talk about a family prep plan. But the first thing is to discuss what the goals are and what the needs are. If it's needed to assign a caregiver, then loop them into the conversations as well. If you're able to discuss the plan to your children in an age-appropriate way, then that's always helpful as well. If you're a current student, if you're a college student, think about arrangements that you might need to make with your campus and how you can go about that. The next step would be to prepare. So doing those action items, filling out that form in just in case if you need to, and saving it in your emergency folder. Start scanning your important documents and keep them in a safe and secure place. And then the final step is to make sure that you know your immigration options. I think that's empowering when we know what our situation means and what it is that we might be eligible for. And so if you can speak to a trusted immigration service provider, such as JFS, or maybe you work with another private immigration attorney, about your immigration background and history, and make sure that you get screened for any type of eligible immigration benefits. All right, and that wraps up our workshop. There's a few different QR codes on this screen. The first one on the top left goes over a bunch of resources. So if you want to know more about Know Your Rights, you want that guide, that family prep worksheet guide, know about more community resources, scan that QR code. You can follow us on Instagram because we do post updates relating to immigration news. And then if you're interested in a consultation or getting connected with us, you can scan the big QR code on the right side of the screen.
Thank you very, very much, Emily and Marissa. That was really fantastic. Thank you for all the information. We appreciate it very much. If I could not necessarily ask a question, but give a scenario, because I get this, my office gets this all the time. Let's say that you're driving with your family and one of the lights on your vehicle is not functioning, and you're pulled over by the police, whether it's the San Diego police or the Chula Vista police, and you're going to be given a ticket. What should you do?
Sure. Thanks for that question. First of all, I'd want to highlight a couple of different laws, state laws that we have here in California that protect us a little bit better. You may have heard of like a sanctuary jurisdiction, a sanctuary city, or a sanctuary state. California has a law called the California Values Act, and it's commonly referred to as California's sanctuary law. And it basically limits the way that law enforcement is able to interact with immigration enforcement, right? And so if they're asking you questions about your immigration status, if they're asking you any questions at all for that matter, you still do have your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and to ask all of the same questions that Marisa went over. Am I free to go? And in the event that you are detained, you still have your right to remain silent. And as soon as you ask for a lawyer, they are no longer allowed to keep talking to you and asking questions. That doesn't mean, unfortunately, that they won't try to do that, but that's why it's really, really important that we know what our rights are and how to exercise them.
And it's interesting that we're asked, should we volunteer any information? Should they volunteer any information?
That's a really tricky question. And it's kind of dependent on the situation, right? We've shared all this information with you about your rights, and that's for you to keep in mind anytime you're interacting with law enforcement. And, we understand that a lot of those interactions can be very emotionally heightened, can be very stressful, and you kind of have to assess for yourself how you're going to react. But it's always a good idea to be exercising your right to remain silent. Um, we have a whole bunch of red cards available at our office. So you're welcome to get in touch with us. You can carry the little card that you can carry in your wallet. And that way, if you don't necessarily feel comfortable talking to law enforcement, you can just show them your card that has all of your rights on it.
Great. And maybe just the last question I would ask is this. We're also asked quite a bit if an officer, a federal officer, comes to your house and asks for somebody that's not living there and doesn't live there, but maybe previously lived there. What should you do?
Be honest and let the immigration officers know that that's the situation. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that they're not going to try and get information from you as well. And so that's where we would for sure advise do not open the door. As soon as you open the door, you're giving them an opportunity to access you in that way. And it's always best to not open the door if you're able.
Thank you. That was very helpful. We get those interestingly all the time. So thank you very much. I think that was very helpful. Well, with that being said, I do want to thank everyone. I have to tell a tiny story, and that is uh, Sara and I know a friend named Ted Deutsch, former Congressman Ted Deutsch. And I had told Congressman Deutsch about the work that you were doing down in San Diego, the Jewish Family Service, a few years back. And so he went there, and I don't know if you met with him, but he came back and explained to me all the wonderful work you were doing. And he literally started to tear up. He couldn't help but be proud. And I told him, I feel that same sense of pride that the San Diego Jewish Family Service has done unbelievable work. I mean, work that has been, really the saving of many, many families and the heartache that hasn't happened because of your wonderful work. And again, I was so proud to tell Ted about you. And then I was so pleased when he came back and he had that very emotional experience just to see how well and how hard you were working on behalf of people who really need the help. And with that, I'll pass it back to someone that always helps people, and that's Congresswoman Sara Jacobs. Congresswoman.
Well, thank you. I hope that this was helpful for everyone. Please make sure that you tell your friends and family and loved ones about these rights because we really do want to make sure everyone is cognizant and aware of the rights they have, regardless of their status. And if you have any questions, please, they have the information here on how you can reach out to JFS, Jewish Family Service, and of course, Juan's office and my office are always happy to help as well. So thank you all for joining us tonight, and I hope this was as informative for you all as it was for me. And please make sure to spread the word so that everyone in your life knows what rights they are entitled to in the United States.
And thank you to everybody again. I appreciate it very, very much again. Just to reiterate, this is not legal advice, but I think it's good advice. Not legal advice, but good advice. And I appreciate it very, very much. And lastly, I would also like to thank not only Jewish Family Services, but the ACLU, San Diego Organizing Project, and Casa Cornelia Law Center. You all seem to work so well together on behalf of those that really need your help. So thank you very much. Once again, thank you.